to be selfish, to find something that really does treat you well and you're not going to end up at the ER with a cotton sheet that feels like knives. So when I was a senior resident in Oregon at OHSU, I had to do about half the year doing special consultations in the hospital. It could be in the ER, it could be the Children's Hospital, the VA. So a lot of different people that I would see for various dermatology issues. And one day I was on service with one of our kind of oldest attending doctors. He's kind of the original dermatologist. He's got a lot of old school ways of treating things. And I learned a lot from him. And this case was really, it stood out to me because we got called to the ER at the main hospital, and there's this woman laying in a gurney, but even like the cotton sheet that was over her body looked like it hurt her skin, like it was like sharp knives on her, just this cotton sheet. And she was the color of like a boiled lobster, like fresh out of the pot. Her entire body was fried, and even like her chest, she was undressed, so her chest, it was like third-degree burns down to her rib cage, and she was in tears, and it was awful. And I just thought, I didn't even know people could burn this badly. This is the world's worst sunburn I've ever come across. And so I look at my attending, and he's like, okay, well, we got to do something for her. So he said, let's go back to the clinic and let's make a slurry. I'm like, make a what? And because they had already given her, a lot of drugs to try to help with pain. Nothing was working, all the morphine, etc. Not enough. None of it worked, clearly. So we made this slurry we ground up in his little mortar and pestle, for real, tablets of aspirin, and then a little bit of cortisone he put in as a cream, and then a little bit of a few other kind of soothing ingredients that kind of felt that would make her feel a little cooler, like menthol and stuff like that. I don't know where he got this stuff from, but this is the old style dermatologist, right? So we come back to the ER like to save the day, and actually we put on gloves and we started applying to the worst areas this pasty stuff, and it was the first like relief that she had gotten. You could just visibly see that she was relaxing. So when people come to me and they have a sunburn, or they're asking me questions about, what do I do if I get a sunburn, I always think back to that one person because of her extreme situation. But the truth is, there are some things to take away from that, and there are some things you can do to help relieve pain and to help when you get a burn. Definitely number one thing is try not to get a burn, because even though she suffered so much that one day, or probably several weeks of pain, for the rest of her life she's going to have to watch her back literally to make sure she doesn't get melanoma, and she's going to have probably more wrinkles and spots than she deserves because she made that major mistake that was just a one-time thing. I'm not really going to tell you how she got burned because it's kind of weird, but it was unusual. But the point is, we can take steps to not get to that crisis point. And the main thing, when people come in and we're talking about, what can I do? Of course, number one, it's finding a good sunscreen. And the two main issues with sunscreen, stepping back a bit, one sunscreen is not the same as the other, even if they have the same SPF number, even actually if they're the same brand in some cases. There are things you have to look for in a sunscreen to really know that you can trust it truly with your skin. And especially if you're going to somewhere like high elevation or the tropics, where you're going to be testing the quality. So the things you look for, number one, SPF, that factor should be at least in the 30 to 50 range. Just remember 30 to 50. Above 50 is pretty much a plateau. It's not any better if you get 70 or 100, if they say that. It's still basically 50 on that kind of quality chart. If you drop below 30 though, it does drop very fast, and it's not like a 5 and a 10, it's nothing. Like a white t-shirt is about a 4, just for like comparison. So 30 to 50 SPF, and then the second thing is it should contain zinc. And I know a lot of people hate zinc, and it's kind of a hard sell for my patients too, but the main reason mostly is that the formulas are not really fun. They're pasty white. You look like a ghost. You're walking around. It's, obvious. You've got white stuff all over your ears and your beard or whatever. So of course no one's going to wear that. It's not going to happen. So you have to find something you love that has those two things. And luckily, if you do the research, which I've done a lot myself, I've always been interested in good quality sunscreen. Every season I go out looking for what's the newest thing and do they have the right criteria. Basically, so I found a couple that are zinc based, and they have the SPF range in the right range. And interestingly, the zinc also not only covers the broad spectrum, so you get full coverage of protection, but it also is less damaging to the environment and to the coral reef. And these things do matter, and everything we do does affect our environment, the habitats, the water sources of that we all have to rely on together, especially with more populated planet, and then also big coral reef die-out. So I do want to just put that in there because it does matter, and I think it's our responsibility to do that, but also really to be selfish, to find something that really does treat you well, and you're not going to end up at the ER with a cotton sheet that feels like knives. So those two things are really key. The next thing though, when someone's like, well, how can I avoid getting burned? Just use common sense pretty much. Like if you're out, you have an area of wherever you are that's in the shade, go to the shade. If you can wear a big hat, a full wide brim, not just a ball cap. If you're driving in the car, you've got sun coming down on your left arm and your hand, put a sleeve on. You can buy sleeves, or you can just, if you have sometimes I just use a sweatshirt and just put the sleeve on. So if I'm driving for 5 hours, I'm not cooking for 5 hours, because even through glass, even if the glass window's up, even a tinted window, there's UVA that comes through that causes wrinkles, brown spots, and cancer as well. So those things I like to educate people on that, just so you have the knowledge and you understand the risk factors. But so common sense, step in the shade, wear a hat, good quality sunscreen. There's also some really awesome clothes that are being made now with the fabric is called a UPF kind of sun protection that the fabric has. It's real, it does work. When I went to Hawaii a lot, I used to work there, and I would bring these like rash guard style sun shirts, and I burn instantly. I go from white to red and then to white. I don't actually tan, I just have that that's just me. So it's a real test for me when I go to Hawaii, because I know I will burn if I'm not careful. So anyway, so I wear those and that's fine. I feel fine. I go in the water, put a little sunscreen on the face, neck, and hands, and the rest of me is covered. So those are some really fun things you can do that really do work, and you can still look good. You can have a product that's not going to be pasty if you find the right one. One that I sell here in my office that I'd like is called Elta MD. They're on the Environmental Working Group as a high-rated, good quality, environmentally friendly product, and it has all those things I mentioned. Plus, it goes on clear. It doesn't look. I'm wearing some now. And it doesn't bother me. I actually love wearing it. I don't even leave the house without it now. Yeah, they also have tinted versions, so if you want a little bit of a bronzing kind of look, it's nice. It actually looks pretty. We were talking about things you can do to help prevent excess sun exposure or not getting burned. I wanted to mention also really big sunglasses, and they can be whatever style you want, but they should cover as much of your upper face as you possibly can with polarized lenses, and they will definitely help reduce the amount of radiation you get, not only to your eyes, which is helpful for a lot of reasons, but from a skin standpoint, that delicate eyelid skin that's so thin and so susceptible to getting damaged and wrinkled and all those things, brown spots. This is a way to add that extra layer of protection. There's ways you can do this where you can kind of make it fun and make it kind of incorporate that into your daily routine.